what we'll do the first week of next term, this is all in course descriptor, is I'll have a one-on-one session with each of you regarding your assignment. So at that point, you're going to be quite well established in your assignment, which you don't know anything about yet, but so over the next 2 weeks we're going to head towards getting it all together. So that's the plan. So I'll start discussing the those sorts of things as we keep going. What am I looking for here? So just remember that all these resources are in that folder that I sent you. So you get to access them and have a look, see what's going on. So this sheet's entitled Examples of Harmonic Motion. So this is just sort of an idea of some ideas about how we can start to compile some harmony together. We've already talked about this cycle of harmony, and I've written this up on the board a couple of times, but in general I find that because of the nature of each of these areas, and I've talked at some length about what I think are the characteristics of these poles, so I generally think harmony tends to move in that way. Now I've put a fainter arrow going back that way because I don't think it's exclusively in this direction, but this is the general trend. So we're going to keep that sort of in our mind. And so we sort of start off looking at kind of various ways that we can develop harmonic movement on those principles and other principles. So just on the that flow of harmony, that natural flow kind of thing, and we've already discussed this, that the poles, tonic, subdominant and dominant, well they've all got different types of chords in them. So for instance in this first one here, we could consider, if we want to go from tonic to subdominant to dominant and back to tonic, well the tonic of course can be one of those chords there. It doesn't necessarily have to be chord 1, and then there's the subdominant, and then we go dominant, and then there's the tonic, subdominant, dominant, tonic. So already what was 4 chords has turned into a flow of harmony that is considerably longer. So in basic diatonic terms, that can be a kind of a direction to go. I'll play that to you. So. Sense or whatever. So it still feels like it's got that movement forward. So what you might say to me, well, I don't agree with the the movement of the poles. Why don't you try that backwards? Okay, well, let's try it backwards and see if it's as convincing. I hope it's not. So I'll go backwards. Well, it didn't start off too bad, did it? It's actually quite nice to start off, but towards the end, and that's where the cadences, particularly the 5-to-1s and the dominant motion, really comes in. So, I mean, it's very subjective, that's what you think, but I would say that it's not so successful at the end, but potentially at the beginning it's not too bad. So that's an idea. Just don't forget with the poles, you can always have one of the poles. So that's an idea for constructing harmony. Another one revolves around the cycle of fifths. You've probably heard that term, or the cycle of fourths. Of course, it's a fifth down, and when I refer to the fifth down, I'm meaning this 5-to-1 movement here. And there it is again, and this is just still dealing with diatonic chords, but I can also, the 2-to-5 is a fifth down as well. So once I establish the tonic, I can move to a chord and then go in cycle of fifths and create a reasonably strong movement. We're quite used to that sound diatonically. That's the first one. So just that cycle of fifth movement in the bass is quite a strong thing to do. And of course then if I go a fifth higher than the chord 2, I end up with chord 6. What is that song? Everybody know that song? Anyway, there's a song that goes 1, 6, 2, 5. And then I can go a fifth higher than 6, which would be chord 3. And even go as far, and remember these are all diatonic, as going chord 7. Chord 6 is a bit weak unless it goes to 3, 7. It's a little bit weak, that chord 7. But nonetheless, the cycle of fifths, just because the fifth motion down in the bass is the strongest chordal, strongest root movement you can have, along with the semitone descending. The fifth down in the bass is the strongest chordal movement or bass movement you can have, apart and along with the semitone descending. So that's why those are particularly strong. So, taking that idea, we can start to introduce some secondary dominants. As we already know, once we put secondary dominants in, it's going to make the movement stronger again. So we can prepare a chord with a secondary dominant instead of the just the plain old chord that would come before it, and it's strong because of the dominant motion. So it's of course, instead of just going 1, 5, 1, we can go 1, 2, 7, 5, 1. And we can see here the same chords that have appeared above, but we have just interspersed them with the occasional dominant. They could all be dominants, but we've just put the occasional one in. So let me take, say, maybe the fourth line down there. There's 3, 7, so that's 1 to 7. Sorry, I'm not playing this very well. 1 to 7 to 3, 7 to 6. So the secondary dominants are always going to come in to make that forward motion stronger. Don't even have to use that many of them. What else have we done there? We've also put in chord sharp 4, which is sharp 4 in the last one, sharp 4 half diminished, or in the key of C is F sharp half diminished, and that's going to be the 2 chord that prepares 7/7. These all sound like a particular thing, and they're not necessarily going to be chord movements that any of us may want to use, but we're looking at principles here as much as anything. And then, as we know from last week, with much discussion, that the diminished chords come from the middle of the minor secondary dominants. So here are the 3 minor secondary dominants. And of course, instead of having that root in the key of C would be E7 going to A minor, we could have G sharp diminished, or if we wanted to, the other 3 diminished chords that are inversions of that. So that's an idea which we've traversed quite thoroughly last week. A lot of these are just ideas, and a bit more explicitly of ideas that we talked about last week. And of course, we spent a lot of time last week talking about tritone substitutions. So instead of the 5 chord, we can have its tritone substitution, which is flat 2/7. So here are all the tritone substitutions of the main dominant chords we can see chord 5, 6, 5, 1, 7, 2, 1, 7, 3, 6, and 7, 7. Sorry, here are all the dominant chords here. So we're kind of used to that, but just to reiterate it, so we could go 1, 5, 1, and that's going to turn into, and instead of going from chord 2 to 6, 7, 2, 7 to 5, we can go chord flat 6, 7. That's the second one. And the next one, instead of having 1, 7, so those are all the tritone substitute chords working there as we discussed. And then the next thing to consider is that all those tritone substitutes which are here can all have their 2 chord prep. Who can remember what the 2 chord prep for a tritone substitution is? What's its quality? Sorry, what did you say? No. It's a minor chord of some description. Which one is it?
Half diminished?
Nope.
Just minor.
Just minor. Which minor is it? I'll give you a handy clue. Look at the possibilities in the major key from last week. Come on, I dare you. Where are they? That's where they are. It's written explicitly there.
Just a -7.
Yeah, which one though?
Dorian.
Yes, it's Dorian. So these are Dorian. Yeah, that doesn't look like Dorian, but it is. Just a wee thought on the way. So those can all prepare the tritone substitution chord, and that's just, I'm not going to play those all. Well, I'll play that one. So if I'm going to go 1, flat 2, 7 to 1, that could be preempted by its 2 chord. Let me do the second to last one. If I'm going to go 1 to flat 3, 7 to 2, I can preempt that with the flat 7 minor chord. one's an interesting one. Remember that 4/7 is the result of the triune substitution of chord 7. So the preparation for that will be 1 minor. That's a slightly unusual one. That's the last one. So all the triune substitutions have the 2 chords that come before them. So you can see that this is sort of following the format of the possibilities we did last week. Everything's in the same order, but we've got some more harmonic ideas. Subdominant minor family. Let's remember what our subdominant minor family is. It's based on 4 minor. Who can rattle off those subdominant minor chords just for now? What's the first one? What's the first mode of the melodic of the subdominant? What's our main chord?
Minor major 7.
Yeah, which one? 4? 4 minor major 7. Yeah.
5 flat sus flat 9.
5 sus flat 9. Yeah.
Flat 6 major 7.
Flat 6 augmented major 7.
Major 7.
Yeah. And what about not one from somebody else? What else is there? Come on, these should just be straight off the bat. Sorry?
7 sharp 11. Or,
Yeah, flat 7 sharp 11.
flat 7 sharp.
Flat 7 13 sharp 11. Yeah, I'm missing one of the key ones.
3.
2 half diminished 9th, or half diminished 11th. Why can I say that? And because it does actually have that note available, doesn't it? The 9th is the major note. So those are the core subdominant minor chords. Remembering that how we're working them out is we're going to chord 4, and these are all modes of F minor, well 4 minor, let's give it a key for now, F melodic minor. So that's the first mode. The second mode is, the chord is sus flat 9. What's the scale of the second mode of melodic minor? What's the scale?
Dorian flat 2.
Thank you. I didn't actually know, but thank you. This will be Lydian augmented, is that right? Flat 6. Flat 7, that's probably our most usual one. What's that? Flat 7, or 4 minor melodic. What's the 4 melodic minor? Yep, Lydian dominant. Sorry, I'm getting my terminology mixed up. Great. And 2 half diminished, what would we call that? Lockern sharp 2. Awesome. So you can either do it either way. You can go to the 4 chord and then think of the modes of the melodic minor. So here are variously those. 5 sus flat 9. And I've kind of just paired them up. So the idea really, as we get used to subdominant minor, we can pretty much use them in pairs. Here's 4 minor to 5 sus flat 9, so that's those 2 there in a pair. 2 to 5 sus flat 9 is this one, just 5 sus flat 9. I'll play these in a minute. And flat 7 by itself. Often, and the next one has 4 and flat 7, which we would call the backdoor progression. So those are those 2 paired up. And the last one we didn't mention over here is 3, which in here is 7, and that of course is altered. So the 7th mode of the melodic minor is altered. So that would mean that 3/7, which is here, is going to be alt. Now that doesn't play nicely going to chord 1, but it goes really nicely to one of the polar substitutions of 1, which is 6. So those are all examples of how we can use subdominant minor. So here's the key of C. So that's the first one, those first 2 pairs. Here's number 2. So that's like when I was, and previously I've been used to calling that a minor 2/5 and a major key. you come across that before? So I don't know if that's a terminology which comes up before. It comes up in tunes like, have you ever done Night and Day? Night and Day, you know the one? That's a minor 2/5 in a major key. What's the difference? Well, in the key of C, it retains the E natural all the way through, which is the third of C, and you can see with those chords, I'll just give that, and this is how that would go. Night and day, you are the one. So it's 2 half diminished to 5 sus flat 9. But just notice on both of those, because this has got a major 9, it's got an E natural. G sus flat 9, well, it's still from the scale of, the scale of F melodic minor, which looks like this. But they're still borrowing from exactly the same scale, and of course, there it is there. It's got both got E naturals. So we would call that the minor 2/5 in a major key. Yeah.
Is do you see A flat 7 sharp, A flat major 7 sharp 5 as well, in substitution with the D chord? Is that because they're both from the melodic minor scale?
The A flat Lillian augmented.
Yeah. Is that like a substitute for the D?
Yeah, it's quite often, and it's a difficult chord to name. I mean, how often do you see major 7 augmented? I mean, it's a very strange chord. Often it's notated as half diminished over A flat,
I see.
because it's such an unusual chord. It's quite commonly used, and sometimes in that voicing, like that, without, I mean, just as a direct inversion of that, it's quite common. But the other one, which sounds like this, is the augmented. It's just a little bit more out there. But as the absolute conversion of D half diminished over A flat, it's used a lot. Used a lot. In fact, in this tune, that would get, and I'll just play you what that sounds like. That's what it sounds like, because it sounds like quite a normal chord, but it doesn't really have a name. It's a slightly strange one. Did we get down to the back door? So the back door 1. So night and day for this progression here is a field day for just using different pairs of these. You could go A flat to D half diminished. Of this tune. I should bring one in actually, and we had a little look at it in many different forms of these pairs. And lastly, this 1 to 3 altered has to go to A minor. We can't really get E altered. It just doesn't, because it's such a strong dominant chord. It has to resolve down a 5th. It can't resolve down a 3rd. It's not a strong enough progression for it. But it can resolve down a 5th to another chord in the pole. Okay, how's all this going? It's all right. I've got mute. We're all pretty mute today. Is it all right?
Yes.
Do I need to go around and challenge you all to some of these ideas? Get you on track? We'll talk about life, anything going on? Trump, what do we need to talk about?
I'm blocking that out.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Sorry I mentioned it. I would love to see more devices and you looking at these. I'm really not happy with people looking at things on phones, because we're grown-ups now and we really need to have these either printed out or in front of us. So it would be really great if you could make notes on this, either on your device or something. Remember how I really want this to go. I don't want you to be passive in these sessions. I want you to be really as active as you can be. So, to that point, any questions so far? Any questions so far?
Well, I guess I'm just wondering, I mean, if these pairs are kind of not set in stone, but they're like a classic kind of, what am I trying to ask? Like, so these pairs are,
Of the subdominant minors in
yeah, these
particular,
are
yeah.
things that like show up commonly in songs. Is that kind of the idea of why they go together, or is
Yeah, I mean, they're just opportunities really.
okay,
I mean, that is an example where they will come up and things.
yeah,
The subdominant minor one's a really interesting one because it goes right across jazz and popular music. It gets used so commonly. Some of these pairs might be more peculiar to jazz, you know, like certainly the back door progression, but I'm sure we would come up with a pop song which has got 4 minor to flat 7 pretty quickly. You know, I'll try and think of one. But they're opportunities, because what we're going to do after this is we're going to start constructing some harmony, and we will put them into practice. And so, and yeah, as you can see, that sort of follows pretty much the last sheet that we looked at, which is the 7 possibilities in the major key, but with harmonic movements within that. And then the last one, just to complete that, that progression, is we've got the flat 3 diminished to 2. Not really too much to say about that, because that's just where it is. It just simply goes 1 or 3 to flat 3 diminished to 2. Which sometimes think about as the Muppets. So it's that whole sort of thing. That's 1 flat 3 diminished to 2. Fine. So where we go now is we're going to make some harmony. So in covering all those things, those are all our opportunities. So how do we actually go about writing some harmony? Well, that's what we're going to discuss now. And I'm not going to do it without a decent black pen. So I'm just going to go and run down and get one very quickly. Unless this one's actually okay. No. It will be just a minute and I'll come to you right back.
What sheet he's looking at? It's under topic 6. And this is the first one,
Ah, bliss. Okay, so we'll start off in the key of C. Now, I'm variously going to start to use chord voicings or chord spellings, because that's what I want you to do. So I'll pop in and put those in as we go through. And that will consist of a bass note, in the bass clef, a voicing or a spelling up in here, and eventually a melody, but we're just going to focus just on the harmony at the moment. Where we're heading in your assignment is I want you to come up with two pieces in some sort of form. We'll talk about that a bit later on. They can be in a jazz or a pop or whatever style you like, really. The overarching thing is between the two of them, you're going to use all the possibilities in a major key. So all the things we've talked about. At some point they're going to have flat three diminished descending, they're going to have subdominant minors, they're going to have tritone substitutions, they're going to have diminished chords. Everything we've discussed is going to be in them overall. They're going to have a melody, and we'll discuss those ideas. So this is a little composition that, yeah, you're going to write, and overall they're going to have good harmonic flow. Now that's the more kind of subjective thing which we will discuss, and we've discussed already about things that make good harmonic flow in general terms, but that's sort of where we're heading, and of course I'm going to give you a lot more detail about that. But now today we're going to start writing some harmony, and we're eventually, maybe today or next week, we're going to look at some examples of major harmony and how they exist. And then next week, particularly, I'm going to talk to you about what your two pieces are going to start looking like. What sort of things do you want to do? What sort of keys? What sort of styles? Because when I see you in the first week of next term, I'm going to see you individually for about a quarter of an hour each, and we're going to sit down and look at your things and discuss them in detail. And then we finish that all up, and the submission date will be a couple of weeks after that. And then we move into mine. So that's just to let you know where this is all going. So let's just say I am you, and you're sitting down to write your first bit of harmony. What's the first thing I'm going to consider?
Maybe the root movement.
Yeah, or the key. Do a key, so you can be in any key. Let's do C today just because it's our friendly key, but you can be in any key you like. And then I'm going to consider possibly my first chord. I mean, things we're going to come into before that are going to be, what's my form going to be? But whether you want to consider form before you start writing or at some point in there, that's kind of up to you. I think I will establish a form for today because it's just going to make things a little bit easier for us. So I'm going to go like an AAB form, which is going to be 8 bars. And it's going to repeat back. So this is going to be, in jazz terms, what we call an AABA form. Now you don't have to do this. In reality, you are going to come up with something which has repeated form sections. And for those of you who've done jazz, you'll recognize the AABA form. For those of you who've mostly done pop, you'll recognize forms more like verse, verse, pre-chorus, chorus, verse, bridge, etc. So the forms will be slightly different. But popular forms are the same. I mean, why do we repeat sections in music? Why does popular music repeat sections?
To give the listener a familiar experience.
Great. What's the alternative?
Thoroughly composed.
Through composed. And why don't we through compose everything?
Because you can't sing along with something that's thoroughly composed.
These are all great ideas. What's it like if we listen to music that there's no familiarity, that it just keeps going? What happens to our brains?
It feels like very settled.
We'll just go crazy. We just go crazy. It's a funny thing to think about. If we don't have some familiarity and things coming back and saying, oh, I recognize that, it will drive us mad. It will basically just drive us crazy. You try it sometimes. You know, I mean, try and write a bit of music that has no familiarity and it'll just keep going. And that concept just makes our brains curdle after a while. we have to have things that come back in familiar. We like to see patterns and have things reaffirm. So these I would call in general terms popular song forms, because of course the AABA form was a popular song form in the 1920s. That's where that came from. Popular, it was popular music at some stage. And this is now probably what we'd call more of a popular song or popular music form these days. But yeah, repetition is really, really important to have familiarity and come back. So if I'm going to do the AABA, which I am, so I just said I'm going to do it. Here is the 8 bars, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and that's going to go back in. I might have a first time bar, yes, I'm going to do the first time bar and the second time bar there. And then I'm probably going to have a B section, which we may or may not get to as part of this. So I have set myself up a form, but whether you do that first or you just start writing something is really up to you. So what can we generally say about the ends? We don't know what's going to happen in here yet, but we can probably say something about here, and we can probably say something about here, and we can probably say something about here. So tell me about those initial points. What are we probably going to start with?
Probably a 1 chord.
Probably a 1 chord. In the key of C.
And the first time bar, turn around, get back 2 step 1 chord, and then in the second time bar, probably something to move on to the next section.
Okay, good. So probably here is going to be the chord that preempts or gets us back to there, right? That's sort of the idea. So somebody give me an idea. If that is going to be a C chord, what chord this could be?
F minor.
Sure. For the whole bar or half a bar?
Yeah, maybe half the bar. You could do one of those pairs.
We can do one of the pairs.
Yeah.
Great. So we've already got things starting to formulate based on just kind of what's probably going to happen. So good. We'll leave that as F minor. We'll leave it as F minor 6 just for now, because that is going to be a strong resolution, as you say, Tom. You actually don't have F minor, but that's going to be one of them, because that's the subdominant minor resolution. And you were just saying over here that this is going to set up to maybe head us in the direction of what the B section is going to be. Now we don't know what the B section is going to be yet, but this bar is probably going to be different to that bar. So we've got a key of C. Let's make this a C6 chord, just because that's what it can be. And we haven't really established the tempo of this piece yet, because the tempo of the piece is going to establish the chord density. Am I going to have 4 chords per bar? I'm not. I just think in this example, I'm going to have a mixture of semi-breves and minims and maybe pairs of things like that in a bar. That's going to be a medium tempo, about 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's kind of going to be my thing. So because I'm in control of this particular one, I'm going to say we're going to do this for a bar. I wanted to have a whole bar of C to start off with. Okay, so we've got our first big decision. Where do we go from here? Well, really, the answer to that in terms of theoretical terms and how this works is once we've established chord 1, we can pretty much go anywhere. Now, in the cycle of harmony, which would be tonic, subdominant, dominant, you might say, well, surely, because that's the next thing in the list, we would go subdominant. And it could be, we could go to subdominant chord, which would be D minor or F6 or something like that. But we're not just dealing with diatonic harmony here. This refers to this idea of 1, 3, and 6. 2 and 4 refers to diatonic harmony, not exclusively, because the dominant motions are going to be important, but we can at this point go to any of the secondary dominants. We could go anywhere. Think about all the things that we've got so far in the possibilities. We could go to a diminished chord, we could go to a trident substitution, or the 2 chord prep for a trident substitution. We could go to a secondary dominant chord or its 2 chord prep. we could go straight to a subdominant minor chord, we could go straight to flat 3 diminished. Or we could go straight to a Lydian chord, and I haven't included Lydian chords in there. So of all the 7 things that are possible, or let's say the 6 things, because we've dealt with the diatonic first, we can do any of them. So I'm just going to make that reverse here. We can go to a secondary dominant, we can go to a tritone substitution, we can go to a diminished chord, we can go to a subdominant minor chord, and we can go to a flat 3 diminished descending, or we could go to a Lydian chord. So that's quite a big list, isn't it? All possible things. Once we've started the motion off, and then we're going to have to progress it through and figure out where it's going to go. So who wants to give me a tilt on one of these? Really don't mind, totally up to you. Come on, Kieran, you work up.
Can we go 3-7 alt?
Yes, certainly. For some reason I'm having a blank on names today. But so you're going to go straight 3-7, and you want to, well, let's do it for a minimum. Give me some notes for three. This is a good test for you. Give me some, what are the important notes for 3 off?
Have an A flat up there.
Yeah, I'm going to call it a G sharp.
G sharp, fair major.
Yeah.
D and G.
Okay, so we'll put the important thing about alts is the major third is down the bottom. I think about them as major thirds and minor thirds, and that the minor thirds above it. That relationship's important, isn't it, in that sharp 9 chord. So that's not a bad voicing for 3 alt. Now, once we've made a decision, we'll call this E alt, I have set in motion some certain things that have to happen. What can you tell me about 3 alt?
Wants to go to 6.
Yeah, it's our strongest dominant chord, isn't it? And it has to go to 6. Now, this is where things get interesting, and you can think about this as like almost like a computer program or a game, because once we go to 6, what can 6 be, or what can it change to?
1 and 3 and so on.
Yeah, we know that 3 to 1 isn't going to be strong. So I think it's going to have to go to 6. But once we get to 6, 6 can become different things. Now 6 is, in diatonic terms, is A minor. But we could instantly turn it into
A7 to do like
a secondary dominant.
Yeah.
So this is the logical choice, and that's probably what we will do. But and this is where things get interesting. That could instantly become A augmented 7 flat 9, which is the secondary dominant. What else can we do to a dominant chord? Tritone sub, which would be E flat 13 sharp 11. And that has a 2 chord, which is going to do what? We just discussed what these are. What's going to be? B flat minor 11, the Dorian. So, sure, this is fine. This is absolutely no good, but those are all options as well. So let me just play it. As soon as I go there, I'm going to try this and see what you think, because what we're looking for is the harmony moving forward. So we'll jump straight into something more complex, but that's what we're doing. So. So that's the B flat minor and the E flat. Does it work? Sure it does. In fact, it's really interesting because it takes us away harmonically, doesn't it? And that's what we want to do. That's really interesting. Very subjective. It's up to you what you want the sound of. Let me resolve it to the A minor. First of all. So that's the more inside choice, or the more straight ahead choice. And I'll just do straight to A7 this time. So some choices. Seeing you chose this so far, what do you want to go with?
From the A minor 11.
Well, from there, which of these would you like? Do you want to go to A augmented 7, you want to go to A minor 11, or would you like to take either of these choices?
I like that bottom one, the B flat minor.
Like this? And what do you think your chord speed's going to be?
Crotchets.
Crotchets? Awesome. So that's ideal, you know, you go something, okay, yeah, that suits me really fine, that's the direction, that's the sort of piece that I've got going on. But isn't it interesting, we just make one choice and already we've got a number of pathways that we can go. Okay, do you want to keep going and give me some notes on the chord up here for this first chord?
I'll just go bottom to top, I guess. So A flat.
I'm going to go D flat because,
D flat.
yeah,
Okay. And then A flat.
then F, that's right.
Then A flat. Oh, sorry.
That's right.
Like,
Well, in fact, we'll go 9. Now, what I'm starting to do here, and we haven't discussed this yet, but I'm starting to put in chord spacings, chord spellings at least, and I'm trying to keep them sort of in this range here.
yeah.
I'll talk to you more and more about this, but at the moment, we're sort of looking around about the C to C area. When we do two-handed voicings, our range is going to go from C to C here. But apart from this one, which is just slightly unusual one, my format for these chord voicings at the moment is a bass note and a simple 3, 5, 7, 9 sort of voicing on the top. Yeah. So there are lots of different ways we can do this. Okay, so let's work out what your next chord's going to be. This now. We're going to try and keep this in the same sort of area. So you want to have a go at, it's going to be a D flat on the bottom.
And then G.
You're going to keep the F because we've still got the 9th,
Oh, right. True.
and we've got the G, and so that's still E flat 13. To get the sharpened 11th, we'll probably add it in. So we're doing, it's just a little bit of sort of just figuring out where we go at the moment. But that's probably what it's going to look like. So let's just play that exactly as it is. Once again. And we're sort of poised to go somewhere. Now, as much as we had some choices in there, where this goes, there really isn't much choice. Because basically it's A augmented 7. Even if it's A minor, it has to keep going in the cycle of fifths, doesn't it? And so, where's that going to go? How about you, Alex? Some sort of D? And I know this is going to be D minor 11 or something, so I'll just throw up some notes of, there's D minor 9. And maybe this will be a minim. Now, equally, we do have some choices because we've got to a diatonic chord and we could turn that into a secondary dominant. We could do a number of things with it. Let's, for the sake of not getting too complex, we'll just leave that one, we'll let it settle to where it wanted to naturally go because we've got quite a lot of harmonic interest going on here, right? And we've sort of now established for whatever for better or for worse, some sort of chord speed. 1, 2, 3, 4, bum, 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 bum. It's looking like a harmonic sort of example at the moment. It doesn't have a lot of much going on, but we'll figure that out. We might be able to get some more rhythm in it as we keep going, but that's all good. Okay, so we've ended up on D minor. D minor 11 maybe. What do you think from here, Alex? What are your thoughts? Now, going on the rules, sort of, we probably should keep going D minor, cycle of fifths, and just finish and just go 2, 5, 1. That's not ideal in the situation because we'll end this piece here. And I've got a junior, I've got to get up to here. So the next kind of, it's not a rule, but tendency is once we've completed a subdominant minor, a subdominant passage, like a 2-5-1, if you like, or a 5-1 from a sorry, I'm getting my terminology mixed up, from a secondary dominant, because this basically was a secondary dominant, this was A7. Once we've done that, we can kind of start again. We don't have to resolve out now. We can take another lurch off in another direction. So essentially here, we have completed A7 to D minor, which is 6, 7 to 2. And so that's what I would call like a subdominant resolution. It has resolved. Once we've done that, in general terms, we don't have to then go G7, C out. We can then take off in another direction. We'll hopefully bear that out as we play it and make sense of this. So what do you think, Alex? Where do you want to go now? So what are your options?
I guess it depends on what I pretend the D chord is. Because I guess we don't want it to be a 2.
No.
Should I think about it as being something else?
Yeah. So I mean, if we've sort of done the subdominant, secondary dominant thing, and we actually use the tritone substitution of it. So if we were sort of ticking things off, and we didn't want to repeat, but you could repeat, but we have got diminished, we've got subdominant minor, and we've got that, although we are on chord 2 already, so that would be a little bit unusual to go flat 3 diminished, because that really needs to come down from 3 or 1. Or we could throw in a Lydian chord. You can do that, but let's leave that one just for a little bit. What do you think?
I remind myself of a diminished chord.
So if you were going to do a diminished chord, that's going to be from E7, A7, or B7. Now, which is the most interesting one of those? The B7 would set up E minor. We haven't really been to E minor yet. The A7 would set up D minor. Well, we've kind of just been there. And the E7 would set up A minor. So I'd say diminished of those two chords, if you want to use diminished, would be the one to go from, because we've sort of, that's where we've been. We don't want to go back there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm just wondering how that relates to like the D minor chord. Like, can you just jump straight there? Or
You can go straight there. Yeah, and that's my contention, is that we sort of treat this as a breath, and then we can launch off in almost any other direction. And I'll kind of prove to you that point in a minute, hopefully just in practice. Because otherwise, we'll get to this far and our journey's over. So this is about where harmony goes and how we keep on extending it. You're just going to have to accept my point at the moment that this can be like a punctuation, and then we can pick up another pair of things. So, with that knowledge on board, are you thinking about a couple of diminished chords in here?
Yeah, I guess.
And heading towards where?
I think E minor.
Okay. I sort of pushed you into that, didn't I? Did you see my point?
Yeah.
So this, I've just got E minor 7 there. That can be E minor 7 and 11, or one of those, but that's enough for the moment. So he's going to have you're going to have 2 diminished chords that are going to preempt that. So the 2 diminished chords to preempt that are going to come from the inside of B augmented 7 flat 9. What are those diminished chords? Can you think what those are, Cassidy? What are the diminished chords inside B7?
F sharp.
Yes.
Diminished. D sharp.
Yep.
Diminished in A.
Awesome. Diminished.
Diminished, yeah.
And lastly,
C.
Yes, well done. Okay, so do you wanna keep, well, why don't you pick this up, which two diminished chords do you think are gonna best lead into E minor?
D.
So D sharp's gotta be strong, right? So let's put that as one here. And let's have one of the other pairs. Well, I mean, one of the other four. I'm gonna suggest you the F sharp, probably the most likely, because it's gonna be like an enclosure of the E minor, you know, an enclosure is in
Yeah.
like melodic terms. Remember, my contention is that what's good for a bass is good for a melody, so enclosures in bass terms are good. So I could write another diminished chord here, but as we know, the notes are all the same anyway. So maybe what I'll do is I'll put this on the minim halfway through the bar. And okay, so what, as I play this, what you're gonna judge for yourself is whether I can finish on D minor here and then head off in this direction of another subdominant. Another secondary dominant, that's really problematic, these for me, because they've got the same letters. Another secondary dominant, and this time we've used a diminished chord. Okay, so have a listen and see what you think. Once again. Well, I think it's probably a little bit hard to judge at the moment. It certainly feels like we're taking another leap, taking another chunk, but I think we're going to have to judge it over the whole piece. What do you think so far? Is it possible? Is it? It's, you know, it feels like we're heading off another direction, doesn't it? But what we learn from harmony, it's lots of little particularly at this point in harmony, as we get more to the end here, we're starting to resolve more towards where we're going. But when we're in our initial stages of harmony, we have to keep pushing out. We've got to keep on finding new pathways, because if we're just going to go 1, 2, 5, 1, we're going to have very boring music. So that's just the story of where we're up to. Okay, awesome. So we've done a bit diminished. Anna, do you want to have a go at something now? So we've ended up on chord 3, which is quite cool because it's actually, we're on the tonic, and so if we followed this, we could come around, but also by the same token, we can do something new if we wanted to. So you could do maybe a couple of subdominant minor pairs. You could certainly go flat 3 diminished, because flat 3 diminished generally goes 3, flat 3 diminished to 2, so that's, and we're on 3 at the moment, so that's definitely a possibility. You could throw, anybody can throw in it's like a game, anybody can throw the Lydian chord in at any point here, and that could be E flat Lydian. Remember, our Lydian chords are based on this key on the flat note, so that D flat, E flat, G flat, A flat, and B flat. Any thoughts?
Do you mean the treasuring stuffs with the Lydians? Is that what it means?
The Lydians are like the 13 sharp, the 6, 9 sharp 11, so the major or the Lydian chords, and they are on all the black note roots or the non-diatonic roots. But park that one for a little bit. I've sort of purposely just put a wee parentheses around there. But I'd say that would be a strong choice, or going to a pair of subdominant minor chords would be a strong thing to do.
So flat 3.
Flat 3 diminished? Okay. Then do you want to do another minim, or do you want to have a whole bar of it and then a minim?
Yeah.
Yep. So you want to give me some notes of what, sorry about that stem, it's ridiculous. Do you want to give me some notes of what I want to put in the right hand?
Okay, so what are we?
Where
It's
E
a
flat diminished 7.
E flat diminished.
flat first.
Yeah, E flat.
It's a good place for it. Minor third up from that.
And G flat.
Yep. Minor third up from that.
A.
And lastly,
C.
cool. Okay, great. And that has to resolve to, so in this based on this, that's got to resolve to 2. So why don't you give me a 2-chord voicing that would come from. So you're going to D in the bass and give me some right hand notes.
The F.
Yep.
Um,
I'll put the D just because that's going down, right? See the E flat going down to the D?
yeah.
So F, right? And then,
The A again.
Yeah.
And the C.
cool. So that sounds like this. Okay, let's see what we've got so far. See if this makes any sense. Okay, it's not too bad. Sounds like harmony made by committee, but good. So the only thing, and probably if I was doing this myself, I'd go, okay, do I really want to get to that point? Because that really feels like the 2, and maybe it's a little bit soon, but that's all right. We've got there. I'm probably just sort of floating around this D and the E a little bit too much, just from my own personal point of view, but that's fine. Everything's making sense. Now, given that we've sort of got to a 2 chord, the natural thing would be to go to 5. Let's do that, and I'm going to jump in here and just to sort of to prove what we can do, because if we do go to 5, which we haven't been to yet, let's see some things that we can do. So the most obvious thing to go to from 5 would be 1. So I'm going to leave this one with you, Tom. So I've sort of done this on purpose because it looks like, we're finishing our line of harmony, and we really shouldn't be. We've got a way to go. So if I do get to 5 there, and I sort of force that just as a bit of a wild card, what are my options?
Well, you could. I mean, I was kind of thinking you could go back to 1 and then do like a C7 to an F.
Okay.
Leading into that, you know, it's eventually going to.
Okay, so awesome. So that's one option, and I'm gonna put that, and eventually to C7. So it's like once we get to 1, immediately becomes something else. So good, and then that's going to set up.
So it doesn't stay resolved for long.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts? We haven't done anything with this yet.
The subdominant minor. Yeah.
I mean, remember this is 2 to 5 in the key of C, and the back door is the same thing, isn't it? The 4 minor to flat 7. Remember, you know how the back door 4 minor to flat 7 has the same function as a 2 to 5, really.
Okay. Yeah.
But so we could do the 2 to 5 and then do the back door.
Sure. Yeah.
So that for any of those pairs, let's not do that. So that's a possibility. And what's an alternative? We don't have to resolve to, in these terms, to 1. We could resolve to.
Yeah, one of the other ones. Like you could do the G to an A flat major 7 to an A minor, maybe like kind of going up like that.
Nice. Okay. So you're gonna go the Lydian route.
Yeah.
So we'll go A flat, 8 major 7 sharp 11. And I don't know if I'd go to A minor.
We could do A7 as a secondary. I guess we've already done that one.
Yeah. What I'll do another. And we'll discover this, but my tendency would be to do another Lydian dominant chord. Often Lydian dominants go nicely in pairs.
Cool.
Because if you did that, and that would come up into here, then we've got possibly 3 chords we can go 3625 or something to get us back.
Yeah.
So, good, interesting choices. So that was, we forced a sort of a kind of difficult situation where we thought maybe we're going to go to 1, and we've traversed a few ideas. This one here is based on the fact that this is a 2 to 5 progression, and this is the sort of alternative 2-5 progression. What's another alternative 2-5 progression? The tritone substitution of this, which would be A flat, and I don't really put that on it now, which would be A flat minus 7 to D flat 7. So I'm doing a repetition type thing. There's my main 2-5, here's another version of 2-5. So I mean, I could do that one, I could do that one, I could do that one. And they're all going to kind of sound like the same thing. So again, with harmony, we're just trying to sort of think, oh, I'll do this now. This is a nice thing. We'll just play those to you from the E coming down. Here's F minor. And that was F minor, and then the tritone substitute A flat minor. So they're sort of doing the same thing and with different clothes on, aren't they? Let's do that once more. F minor. And that would be the 3-6-2-5 out. So that's possible. Let me just play the 2 Lydian chords for you. Here's D minor. Really nice sound.
Yeah.
They give us a wee movement away. It's always just like a pretty little sort of thing. Let's do that once more. Or something else. What haven't I played? Oh, I haven't just played the going to 3 or 6. And there's A line. Okay, so again, lots of choices. Which one are you going to take?
I like the Lydian ones.
Lydian.
Yeah.
Okay, you want those pairs? Now, what I could play to you is all the other pairs are good. So you can take a stab and pick another pair. I kind of like the A flat because it's coming up, but it doesn't have to be. The interesting thing about the Lydians, and if we use them in pairs, is that they kind of all sound the same. So you can use them for like an advantage of like either a tone going, you go A flat to B flat. The A flat to E flat's quite nice because it's in A flat to E flat because it's in a 4-to-1 or a plagal cadence, and that's why it's got a slight amen thing going on there. So the 4-to-1 is and then of course 5-to-1 strong. So you lots of choice. Do you want to stick with this?
Yeah, I like that.
Okay. Do you want to give me some an idea of some chords?
Yeah. Okay. So the A flat.
So
It's got a major 7, doesn't it? So that's a G, but that might be a bit too low.
Is that G? That's good.
Yeah. Okay.
Or you can go. There's the B flat there.
Yeah, and you've got the C in there already. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's the sharp 11? It's it's an F.
That's
it's
right.
an F,
It's
isn't
a
it?
D. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
So where we put those, and we can play around with these a lot. When we get to voicings, we'll have definitive voicings. I've buried it there, but it could be on the top. But I'm just trying to keep everything a little bit low to see at this point. Now, what you're going to come to now is a voicing of this chord, which is kind of major 7. So let's go
D, and G, yeah. Okay, and what's the sharp? There's an A
Put the ninth
up in there, or just an A in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you've got it. Cool.
So I'll just play those two to you. So they're just some ideas at the moment. So the first one sounds like this. The second one's going to sound like this. What we realised pretty soon on, and that is the case with these two, is that tertial voicings for complex, bigger chords like Lydian chords really sound terrible. They need to have some force in them. But at the moment we're restricting ourselves just for ease and for clarity, because we've got to learn voicings, to a bass note in the bottom, with the exception of that, and then like a close voicing in the top. Just because we're, I'm just saying, well, what are the essential notes in here? So we're just coming up with an idea. Okay, so Cam, I'm going to talk to you next, because when we get to this point, and that's great, we sort of got to a point here and we came up with an interesting, and this is where interesting things should happen. Like we've had a bit of heading off in a direction, and this is where the 2/3 or 3/4 point's nice to do something like in the Lydian thing. We're now getting to the point we've got 2 bars, and we're a bit boring with our chord speed because it's all minims. And you might want to do something about it. We could have all crotchets, you could have 4 crotchets, but you're going to come up with a lot of chords. But we know, because Tom told us, that this is going to be an F minor, but you could gazump him and say, no, I want that to be a G7 or a D flat 13 sharp 11. So your challenge is to come up with either 4 chords or 2 chords. You could just go D minor 7 to G7. What can you tell me about getting to this cadence point here, generally in music, regarding chord speed?
Is that where it speeds up a bit?
Yeah, it's where we're going to have more density of chords. Generally, when we get to cadence points, things tend to speed up. We tend to, if this is our, so we could potentially have 4 chords in here or 3 chords in here. Have I confused you enough?
I think I'm good.
You got some?
So there's the 3/6/2/5, but you could also do like a what's it? F sharp half diminished E7.
Yes. To E.
E to E half diminished A7. That sort of thing.
Yep. Okay, I like that idea. So what Ken's talking about is the big cycle of fifths right out.
Yeah.
So this is the full cycle of fifths that we talked about. Somewhere. Getting enough of that. Anyway, it's there somewhere. But that was the last of our cycle of fifths. Now the only thing I would say about that is, do we need to consider about E flat? Is this one of those chords you can say we've got somewhere and we can head off in a new direction?
Probably not.
No, it's not, because this E flat probably wants to go either side, doesn't it? Just because, well, we remember that the Lydians came essentially from trinode substitutions. So the strongest thing is to descend, but in my ears, that could potentially come up to the E, but probably strongest down to the D. But if you did do that resolution, then you could fit all those 6 chords in. Because you kind of got there for a minute, and then you can go. Like that. Do you want to do that?
Yeah.
Okay, I've made you make up your mind. So we got rid of Tom's F minor 7, which we could have done, and we've gone D minor 7. Just stop writing chords up here. I'm not going to write all those chords in because I can't be bothered. Okay, so we've got something. It's not going to be perfect, but what we have traversed there is lots of ideas about what we can do. Let's just recap, and I can take a photo of this wording place on the video. But let's just traverse what some of those ideas. So if we start somewhere, we can take a short journey. That short journey can be like a pair of chords to do with the secondary dominant. That's pretty much what we did there. We went straight to 3/7. We didn't preempt it with a 2 chord, and that's cool. And you made it altered, which is perfectly right to do. We can always alter the dominant chord. And then we set up where that was going to go. We went straight to that chord, and we thought, well, why don't we turn that straight into a secondary dominant with this 2 chord? That's quite a complex thing we stuck to straight away there, but nonetheless, it got us from 3/7 to 2, and that's all good. And then we thought, well, we'll use a couple of diminished chords, and we could have gone anywhere, but we used them to come back to 3. The only thing probably is this: we're just, in terms of strength, we're just sort of middling a little bit around 3, 2, 3, and 2. But that's all right. That's probably just the weakness of this so far. And once we got to 3, we did the 3 flat 3 diminished to 2 thing, which is a legitimate thing to do. And then we thought, well, we will force the going to 5, because we'll see where that leads us. So we did go straight to 5, and then we did 2 Lydian dominant chords, Lydian chords, which resolved to a 2, and then we did the cycle of fifths from chord 7 out, and they're all diatonic except for 7 and 6 and 2. So we've got 2 diatonics and a thing in there. Now, in terms of have we used everything, we've used that, we've used that. Have we used any subdominant minors? Have we used any of that? We have actually. Can you see where it is? So subdominant minor in this case, F melodic.
A flat Lydian, you could argue kind of.
No.
No.
No, that's G Doris.
Oh,
Did you say A flat or E flat?
A flat
Which one? A flat.
Lydian.
Oh, yeah, no, it's Lydian. It's not Lydian augmented in
Yeah.
this case. There is one which is from
A.
Oh, yeah. Sort of forget, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we did. We did get one in there. Okay. How's that all feeling? Thoughts? Is it complex? How much of those are things that are kind of you're already thinking about and just sort of extending them out? Is that more in that sort of thing, or is it all new? What do you think, Alex? Yeah? Have you written much harmony like this? So you sort of agree with some of the points, like, you know, you can do a movement and then head off in another direction?
Yeah.
I don't want to sort of say this is the way it is, I'm sort of saying, and hopefully these things will all bear out when we listen to them. Thoughts from you?
I mean, I've never written anything like this. It's not my genre.
No,
But
it's a very applied thing.
yeah, but
Yeah.
I think it makes a lot of sense, especially once you've written up all the tools that you have on the side there and the
Yeah.
things that you have to tick off. It's like, okay, that's manageable.
And you know, I mean, we talk about genre, this is very condensed. You might take this little bit for a song or something.
Yeah.
We're talking about condensed harmony because that's what we're studying, you know, so. And I don't necessarily want you to be this condensed. I'm trying to get everything in so we can study it, you know,
Yeah.
in class. Yes,
This is fine Danny for writing, but could you like kind of pull this off in like a jazz like content, like as a jam? If you're like reharmonizing on the fly, or does it just like you just gonna have to have the whole band on with it?
so just so to ask the question again.
Could you, I don't know, like there's like tri-subs of I don't know, like say
Could you throw these things into a jam?
yeah.
Totally, yeah.
How would you do that? Because like
With a good bass player with good ears.
yeah, so it's just everyone just has to catch it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but things like that, yeah, no, throw them in.
Mm.
Do it all the time. Love it. They're great things. Even the bass player's not there, even if in that case he's playing an A. Doesn't matter. Alter. Yeah, because I mean if that's B flat melodic minor, there's the A in the top of it. And anyway, yeah, and the A of is the sharp 11th and the E flat. So there is always a common note there. And most bass players will hear you doing it and go with it at that time. No, absolutely. What do you think, Cam?
Yeah, pretty good.
Thoughts?
So for the Lydians, you can get any two Lydian chords
Yep.
together, and they all just.
And it doesn't have to be two, but they, in this case, we just tried two because it was a flavour that sat on that bar. You know, we're coming up with a contrived bit of music writing here. The hard thing is when you get into, we're creating music here. And so you have to kind of divorce the idea, is this something that I write or like, as opposed to, here we are just studying how music moves. So I'm trying to get a discussion, you know, and present points on how we can construct, which is difficult to do. It's not something that's very widely taught. So I'm sort of saying, well, you've got to accept a few of these things, and yeah, so it's a complex thing. Try and remove the fittings from, this might sound shit. Does it sound, it might sound shit to your ears, and this does to my ears to a certain extent, but if you took bits of it out, and you think, okay, well, I'm gonna do this, and I would write this way, I still want you to think about those decision points when you get to them. Otherwise, all you're gonna write, without these considerations, is C, D minor, G, C, you know. So we've got to work out some way of teasing harmony out and getting it a bit longer. Do you see my point? Do you agree? Anna, thoughts?
I was struggling to follow.
Yeah. So go back over the video, and there's a lot there. It's quite dense.
Yeah. Where are you putting the videos?
I'm putting them on YouTube. I sent you a
I
YouTube.
got the first one, but I couldn't find the second one.
Oh, I put it in there. Maybe I hadn't put it
Where
in.
did you put it?
I thought I put it in the same folder. I'll check.
On the Dropbox.
Yeah, no, in YouTube. And I made a YouTube channel,
Yeah.
so I thought maybe it went in there.
Okay. The first one was unlisted, so
It was on what?
it was unlisted, so it doesn't come up in the search. We have to have the direct link.
You could have the direct link.
So yeah, I wasn't sure where to look for the next one.
You sure what?
Where to look for the.
Just
for
in the email I sent you?
Oh, is it for the playlist? I thought it was just for the first video. Okay.
Yeah, no, it'll be a playlist. I'm not very good on YouTube, but I think they're all in the same playlist.
Yeah.
Yeah, or channel or something. I don't know. It shouldn't be in there. So anyway, I'm just going to play through it, and let's just be open with your ears, and we'll just try and judge whether it's moving forward, I guess, is the key point. Okay, I'll try and play it in time this time and just see what we've got going on. Sorry, I'm going to do it again. sense. It's a little bit of a jumble of things, but of course, when you're writing music, you'll start off with something and you'll do the whole thing and you'll go, well, I like that bit, and you'll throw some things out. But overall, I think it generally feels like it keeps moving. It feels like a musical journey. It has a start point and it comes back around. So, where are we at? We're at 2:30. Kind of feel like we're sort of, what I want to do next, and you can, possibly have a wee bit of a look at this. I'm just going to show you what we will look at next week. Doing very well with my resources today. That's all over the place. What we're going to do is we're going to here we are. No, that's not it. We're going to look through some major key examples. So what I'll start off doing with you next week, and to be honest, a lot of these are jazz examples, but they're not all exclusively. But we're going to just kind of have a look through a few things and see, and you'll see this under the file that's called Major Key Examples. We're going to have a look through and sort of see in existing things how this all works. Now, in the examples that I've looked at here, these are all things that don't transpose. So we see all these possibilities coming up. Maybe have a bit of a look through that, and as we start to get going next week, we'll go through this and have a look at some examples and play some things and just sort of explore a little bit more about what this means. I'll do some pop examples as well, so we can kind of figure out how things kind of sound. So I want you to keep thinking about what you might do. The terms and what's involved in the assignment are on Moodle, so have a look, and it'd be really great to also be able to talk to you next week about what you think you might do. Now, you all come from slightly different places stylistically, and yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting point because you've maybe written some tunes and what have you, but again, just be aware that the parameters of this are going to be that you're going to try and write over the two pieces with all the 7 possibilities. So that includes flat 3 diminished, tritone substitutions, diminished chords. So that's going to push your pieces in a direction maybe that you wouldn't normally go in. So what you can do is you can write one piece like this is what I'd normally write, and we're going to make judgments on whether it's got forward motion harmonically, and then you can say all the weird things like flat 3 diminished for the other piece. So you can do one piece which is kind of your own thing, and the other piece you can sort of include. Remember, you only have to have all those 7 possibilities over the 2 pieces. So I'll go into more detail and depth about the assignment, but just remember when you do come back next term, which will be in 3 weeks, we'll do a schedule, and we'll do it next week, which is you come and see me individually and we'll discuss. You don't have to have it finished, but I want to see what's going on with that. And the other thing which is required in there is a melody. So we'll talk about some melodic considerations next week as well. Sound good?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Let's leave it in our brains there for the day and see you next week. A very nice USB-C to A cables there. I don't know if you see that. Thank you.
you.
See you.